Hello, it's good to see you. I'm Addie from Whimsy of Things, and today we're going to be talking about this Magna Carta Mag 600 Flex Pen. If you're interested in the initial unboxing and the very first brief writing with this pen, I'll put a link to the Fountain Pen Day, New Pen Day video where I initially unboxed this and did the very first writing. But this, I want to be a proper review of this pen. So I'll be doing measurements and talking about some of the features of this pen and doing a longer writing sample. Then at the end of the video, I will take some time to directly compare it to the Mag 650. I'm going to try to keep all of those comparisons between the two versions of the Magna Carta Mag 600 and 650 out of this part. I want to just try to focus on this pen for right now. So if you're really only interested in the comparison between the two pens, you may want to just jump to the timestamp. This is the Magna Carta Mag 600, and the colorway that this is in is All Hallows Eve. It's a limited edition colorway that was offered on Fountain Pen Day. It is a resin pen with a subtle shimmer throughout, and the resin is done in orange and a very bluish purple and black. This was a Pen Chalet exclusive, and it was sold in a set with two Wearingeul inks that matched the pen, Frankenstein and Heimdall. The total price it was sold for was $299. That was with the ink, which for a Magna Carta Mag 600 is a fairly affordable price. And then there was an additional discount. Pen Chalet said that there were 50 of these gift sets available, but I don't know if that means that there were only 50 of these pens available, or if there were only 50 gift sets available and this colorway may come back in the future. That part wasn't clear. So it's possible that the limited edition status only applies to the set and not the pen itself. It isn't numbered in any way, so I'm not entirely positive about that. This pen is a flat top style pen with a very slight taper on the end. So it's mostly straight from here up, and then the cap is straight, but there's just the smallest taper here at the end. It is a screw that takes, let's see, it's 1, 2, basically 2 turns to uncap. The pen is not postable. It won't even pretend to post, so not postable. And it is a international cartridge or converter fill. Right now it's got Waterman Serenity blue in it, and it came with a Schmidt international converter. It would be eyedropperable if you wanted to modify it. I'm fairly sure there's nothing in there that would prevent that from working. It has a 14 karat gold number 6 Magna Carta flex nib with an ebonite feed. And then all of the hardware on the pen is gold plated. It has a clip here. The clip is fairly stiff, but not unreasonably so. Gold plated clip, and then a gold band at the bottom of the cap that says Magna Carta. And there's no special finish to the finial for this end. So that covers the basic specs of this pen. So we'll go ahead and get some measurements. Taking out the cartridge to get a more or less uninked weight. Let's set this to the side. Until I am done weighing, I'm going to first weigh the pen caps. And that is coming to 25.52 grams. Not a light pen, but not a particularly heavy pen either. That's a pretty decent weight for a resin pen without it being too incredibly heavy. And then the weight of the cap alone is almost 11 grams. The weight of the pen, if you would just be writing with it, just the pen itself, is 14.58 grams. Let me find a pen that's similar in weight for people who aren't interested. The closest pen that I have weight-wise, just readily available, is this Benu, and it's still 4 grams lighter. But uncapped, the Benu is slightly lighter. So it's kind of a medium weight pen, not the lightest pen. So that's the weights, and let me get this out of the way here and we'll do some measurements. let's start with the length of the pen. Length of the pen is 149 millimeters or 5.86 inches. Then the length of the pen uncapped, which is the one I have to be careful with because I do not want to jam up this nib, 137.5. Let's just say 137 and leaving a little bit of room there for the nib. And then 5.41. And then the cap length is 65 millimeters, 2.56 inches. Then the length of the grip with the threads and everything, just from there to where the body is 28.6 millimeters or 1.12 inches. And then the length of the grip without the threads, just this grip section here, is 22.3 millimeters or 0.88 inches. And then the grip width, I'll take about where your fingers go. That's going to range, I'll do the range. It's going to range from 11.1 millimeters, the widest, to the narrowest, 10.5 millimeters. And then the pen width, so it goes from 14.3 to, well, I guess it goes all the way down to 11.8. And it doesn't post, so I'm not going to record a length posted. So that takes care of measurements for that pen. Okay, I've pulled out some pens just to give you an idea for size comparison purposes. So this is a pen that I recently got. It's a Narwhal Horizon. This is the closest pen I have lengthwise to the Mag 600. This is the Mag 600 Magna Carta. This is the Magna Carta Mag 650. It is slightly shorter, just slightly, than the 600. This is a TWSBI Eco, which is a good bit shorter, and same with the Lamy Safari. And if we take a look at the same pens uncapped, it's basically the same situation as when they're capped. It's very similar, just slightly longer than the Narwhal Horizon. The Mag 650 is slightly shorter, and the Lamy Safari and the TWSBI Eco are a bit shorter than the Mag 600. I will pick this up and we will do some writing. Let's do the first initial writing on this new pen day sheet that I made for myself. This is a template that I made to record information about my pens as I get them in. It is available for free as a download on my community tab. This exact version, as well as a few other sizes. This is a half sheet. A few other sizes, and then another version that does not include any of these weights if you're not interested in that. And another version that is new nib day, which is more specifically if you are just replacing a nib. We will start filling this out. All right, brand is Magna Carta. The warranty on this is 5 years. Reason for purchase. I bought this pen because I wanted to try it. I actually originally wanted the Mag 600 first. It was a video of this pen was what made me get into flex pens in the first place. And I had started by getting a Noodler's Flex and then several Fountain Pen Revolution Flex pens, and then a Vintage Flex and a Regalia Cross Flex and a Pilot Falcon, which is not really a flex. And then I came back around to the Mag 650, but it was a video of the Mag 600 that initially really got me interested in trying flex pens. So there's a little tiny bit of not really nostalgia, I guess, but like a full circle situation there. So, all right, and this is where I'm going to record the specs of this pen. That covers the measurements. And then in this section, comps, I like to write the pen that I have that's closest in size, which we saw was the Narwhal. Okay, and then in nib comparisons, what I like to do is write a little bit with this pen and then write with pens that have a similar nib. So since this is a flex nib, I will write with this, and then I'll write with a couple of my other flex pens. If it was a medium, I would write with other medium nibs, because different brands, mediums are different, and it's just nice to see how it falls. So this is the Mag 600, and I will just do some of this. And then this is the Mag 650. I didn't want to do comparisons, but this is kind of the whole point of this section. So I'm going to use it here. The pen I'll use for the last size comparison is this Fountain Pen Revolution Jaipur version 2. This is also a number 6 nib. So it's the same size nib. Obviously, it's not the same color ink. And as you can see, it flexes a similar width, but it is an entirely different feeling than either of the Magna Carta pens. All right, and now I will fill out this first impressions box. It's kind of a small box to really write a whole bunch in, but basically I said that the Mag 600 has the same soft flex nib as the other pens, like the Mag 650. It initially wrote quite wet, but after writing with it for a little while, it performed much better. So this is the sheet that I'll put in my book with all my pen information. The back side has space for additional inkings and then a check-in. When I did the review of the Mag 650, I did a longer writing sample just to show you how the pen performed, and I'd like to do that with the Mag 600 as well. So this was the long writing sample for the 650, and I'll flip to a new page and we'll do one for the 600. a couple little railroad incidences. I am going to assume at this point that that is primarily ink related, because I have found Serenity Blue to be a little bit problematic in flex pens in general. It is a very wet writer right out of the gate. So if the pen's been sitting for a little while, I feel like I am best off if I wipe it down a little bit before I use it. But the railroading that I have seen has been quite minor. And well, not only is this Serenity Blue in here, but it's almost out, which is also not ideal for a writing sample, especially a longer one. The converter is fairly low, so that makes a difference as well. Not to make excuses for the pen, there was a little bit of railroading. So I thought about doing a whole video comparing these two pens, but after working with both of them for a while, I realized that there wouldn't be enough to talk about, because the only real comparison you can make between these two pens is the body. The body is different, as you can see. It's definitely different. So if you like the body style or the colors available for the 650 better than the 600, then I would get the 650. If you like the body style of the 600 better, or this is generally a lower price pen, then I'd go with the 600. So anything I say comparing these two pens that isn't directly related to the body probably doesn't have anything to do with the model of the pen, because they both use the same nib. Magna Carta has confirmed that when asked about the nibs, that they make these nibs as a batch and they put them on the 650s and the 600s. It's a number 6, 14 karat flex nib. However, that being said, I do think that potentially Magna Carta has made adjustments to either the nib or the feed over time based on feedback. And that because of that, I would say the newer pens that are out there probably perform better than the pens that have been out for a year. One thing I noticed, which makes me think that this pen has a newer nib on it, is that this pen does have the 14 karat stamping on it. And my Magna Carta Mag 650 doesn't. It doesn't have any stamping. That makes me think that maybe the nib that's on this was produced more recently as a newer nib. Nibs are finicky, and a nib being installed just a little bit off can change the entire pen. Some nibs are flawed from the get-go during the manufacturing process. You can get 3 pens from the same company and the same nib size, essentially what should be 3 identical pens, and one could write beautifully and give you no problems. One could write but be scratchy, and one could not write at all. And that has nothing to do with the model of the pen. It all has to do with the nib on the pen and how it was manufactured or how it was installed. In any case, both of the pens are smooth. The nib is great. This one worked well right out of the box. This one had some hard start issues that resolved themselves without me having to do anything with the nib or change anything after about a converter full of ink. I did notice with both of these pens that they don't like Serenity Blue very much. Out of all the inks that I've put into the Mag 650, that one has performed the worst. This Mag 650 has been so good with the ink lately and has performed so well with everything that I've put into it that I have recently been deliberately trying to fill this pen with inks that I know are dry or that can cause some issues. And most recently, I had Troublemaker Abalone, and this ink is semi-notorious for being pretty dry, and it worked perfectly fine. I might have had maybe 1 or 2 railroading incidents in a long amount of writing. That's normal with flex pens in general, I think. You just start writing a little fast and it doesn't keep up. I have a couple of recommendations in general if you're thinking about either one of these pens. First of all, I'm a fan of getting things off the secondhand market. I think buying secondhand in general is great because you're helping support somebody else who's selling something, and you're helping them to reduce the amount of things that they have, or helping them financially because they need to sell stuff, or you're helping them get another pen that they want more. But for these two pens, I don't think I would. I don't think I would buy these off the secondhand market unless I was able to actually test the pen in person, because I do feel like the older versions of the nib that's in both of these maybe had some sort of issue, or maybe it was the feed. There was something, I think, that has changed. I want you to understand I don't have actual confirmation that the nibs have been changed or improved on the Mag 600 series. I am making an educated guess based on empirical evidence from reading and watching a lot of reviews of this pen. And reviews from a year ago seem to be much more hit or miss in regards to the quality control or the quality of the nib. But more recent reviews and my own experience make the nib seem much more consistent now. This could be due to changes in the nib or the feed, or it could be better quality control. But in any case, I would be far more comfortable buying a recent Magna Carta Mag 600 or the 650, which is just a newer model and it came out more recently, than a Mag 600 that was sold a year ago. If you do buy either one of these pens, I would try a few different inks in the pens before you get too worried about it not working properly. This pen, the 650, has handled every single ink that I've put into it extraordinarily well, except for Waterman's. It has more railroading issues with Waterman's for whatever reason. But I obviously have not put every single ink in the world in this pen, nor do I even have access to every single ink in the world. And I am sure there are other inks out there that potentially would cause problems in either one of these pens. Fountain pens in general have sort of requirements about how the ink is flowing and the viscosity and the surface tension of inks. All of those are important to a fountain pen, and then multiply that by 2 for a pen that's putting down as much ink as a flex pen does. So if you put an ink in there and it's not working well, try some other inks. And additionally, if you do have some issues with the pen being hard starting, like I did with this one, just keep writing with it for a while. This one didn't start behaving until I wrote almost a cartridge full of ink through it before it just stopped giving me hard starts. And that being said, if you've done all that, if you've tried different inks and you've written with it for a while and it's still giving you problems, that is not the norm. And you should definitely exercise your warranty, and you should contact either, the seller of the pen or Magna Carta, because they are capable, after owning 2 of these now, they are capable of being beautiful, consistent, nice writing pens. And if you didn't get one of those, then you should work with one of those 2 places until you do. And I would definitely go through one of those channels before trying to modify anything on your own, because you will void the warranty unless you're somebody who's very experienced with modifying pens or is comfortable with them saying they won't fix it if you're not able to get it to work. That is my comparison of the 600 to the 650. But let's do just a small amount of writing, because I do want to show you how I think this pen's got just a little bit more flex. All right. Everything that I said about the nibs being the same is true. They're the same nib. But if you order 2 TWSBIs with a medium nib from somewhere, the chance that they're going to write exactly the same is probably 0. And then add into that all the complexities of a flex pen, and you're even adding more there. So these 2 pens do write differently. I have taken the Waterman Serenity blue ink out of the pens because I don't think that it's a great ink to test flex pens with. And I filled them both with Iroshizuku, Ku-Jaku, and I'm just going to do a little bit of writing side by side just to show you the difference. So that's the 650. The 600 is, I'm just going to connect it here so you can see it right by it, is very wet right now because I just filled it, but it's wider too in general. It's 600. And then let's do some of these. Again, much wetter. See, the line is wider, and you can definitely see here how the line is wider. and wetter. So to be fair, this 600, when I first ink it, is very wet. That's going to have to be something that I look into. Like this is too wet right here. It seems like it chills out after writing with it for a little bit. So it could just be a lot of ink in the feed. It's like a little bit better there. That is the difference that I see between my 600 and the 650. That does not mean that the 600 is wetter and wider than the 650. It just means that the nib I got on my 600 seems to write wetter and wider than the nib that I got on my 650. That's about it as far as comparison goes. Same nib, different body style. Either one should work though. Final thoughts. This Magna Carta Mag 600 is very pleasant to write with. It has a very responsive and flexible 14 karat flex nib on it that offers a writing experience that's not like other modern flex pens. So it offers something different. If you've only tried flex pens from companies that I mentioned earlier, like Fountain Pen Revolution, this is definitely different. So it's worth looking into if you are interested in flex pens and you want to have a different writing experience. It's not going to be the same thing. And I believe that's because, as you can see in this video, the tines actually flex and spread instead of just spread. So this is the Mag 600 and a close-up of the tines and how they flex. And then this is the Mag 650, which you can see also does the same thing. Then this is the Regalia Cross Flex nib, which has a very wide spread on it, but the tines don't flex at all. And then the same can be said about the tines on the Fountain Pen Revolution pen. They spread, and that does give you a line variation, but the tines don't actually flex. So neither the Regalia Cross Flex nib or the Fountain Pen Revolution pen give you a brush-like or a soft flex. So likes. The nib on this pen is beautiful. It gives you as close to a full vintage flex writing experience that you can get on a modern pen. I truly believe that. I didn't experience any hard starts with this one, and the railroading issues are minimal, and I think mostly due to the ink. I think the resin is pretty. It's got this purple and some blue, the orange. The pattern is nice. It's unique for me. I don't have many orange pens, so that's definitely a bonus. And the pen itself feels solid. It feels well made. It's smooth. All of the hardware, the clips and the band seem well attached. There's no scratches or defects that I can see on the pen. And I do like that it takes an international converter, which makes it easy to replace if I need to. The dislikes on this pen, there's not many. One dislike I have is that this cap will sometimes not thread on quite right at first, as you can kind of see here, and you have to back it off and restart it because I don't want to strip the threads. There's just something not quite right there. A second complaint I have that's very minor is I would like some kind of finial. I just like finials. And the third extremely, extremely minor complaint is that the packaging that this set came in, it looked kind of homemade or thrown together or cheap for the price of this pen. That is such a minor complaint. So really the only hardware or legitimate, honestly, complaint I have is this threading, and that is not an all the time issue. So in my opinion, this is another great pen from Magna Carta. I think they've really come up with a unique flex offering that makes them stand out from what some of the other companies are offering. As I mentioned in my Magna Carta Mag 650 video, I do think that for the price, you could find a vintage wet noodle flex pen if you looked around enough that would be less expensive than this pen is new. But then you would be dealing with vintage pen issues like ink restrictions, if you believe in all of that, or sack maintenance, some kind of repairs. So there is a benefit to a modern flex pen because you're not going to have to worry about some of those restrictions. I don't think this is a pen for everyone. I think that if you are not interested in flex pens, there's really no reason to get this pen. And I don't think that if you are buying your very first flex pen, that it should necessarily be this one, because it is very soft and it can kind of get away from you quite easily. So I think something a little bit stiffer, like maybe one of the Fountain Pen Revolution pens, would probably be a better starting point than this. But I think this is a great pen for anybody who has just even the smallest amount of experience with flex pens, knows that they like them, and is sort of used to the kind of writing style that a flex pen takes with the little bit more pressure on the downstroke. This is a great option. I think it's definitely worth the money if you fall into those categories. I don't know if this would be good for somebody who already has a collection of a lot of vintage flex pens, but I like it. I think it's a good buy, and I give it a thumbs up, even too. So that pretty much takes care of my review of the Magna Carta Mag 600 Flex Fountain Pen. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end. If you would like to see more of this kind of content, please feel free to subscribe. In any case, thanks again for stopping by, and I'll see you again next time. Bye. Please feel free. Please feel free to subscribe.